before I forget it. Okay. So. All right. All righty, we'll start our work session. And let's see what we got right here. Joe, you want to tell us about your two bills?
Oh, yes, sir. So I had approached Representative Pettis about sponsoring two bills for the sheriff's office. One is a fundraising act, local act. Several sheriffs throughout the state have that. Allows the sheriff to conduct fundraising activities. One reason I want to do that is for the rodeo, to keep it going. So I only have one copy of this, so y'all are welcome to it, to read over it, let me know what you think.
Ms. Brown, make us one.
I made some copies.
You did? Okay.
Which one are you gonna show them first?
This is fundraising.
Okay. It's just one page. So there's,
Oh, this is a fairly short and simple bill. Basically, the body of it allows the sheriff to conduct fundraising events, including but not limited to rodeos, and use the proceeds and profits from the event for any lawful purpose relating to the operation of the sheriff. That's about how the discretionary spending account, like the pistol permit, that's about the way it reads. Any proceeds will be used for the law enforcement purposes. And again, this would be like to conduct a fundraising such, i.e. the rodeo, to take that money in and use it as discretionary type stuff. Right now, when we run it, we're running it through the posse, which is a 501c3, to be able to do that. Do y'all have any questions right now on that?
Sounds good to me.
Mr. Chairman, I do know there's a bill, I think that was passed last year, that holds the county commissions not liable for any kind of accidents and things like that, so.
So it's not liable in case there was a fundraising. I know there was a fundraising bill that came up that did not get passed, but this may be something.
This was more dealing with the liability side of it.
Yeah, and just for example, for that rodeo, it was a couple of $1 million insurance we took out on it anyway to put it on, so, yeah.
Which I think would be good to, you know, both of them in place just protects you even that much more.
Yeah. But y'all welcome to ask me in private or call me on the phone or whatever if you got any questions on this. I've already presented it to Representative Pettis. It's in Montgomery. We talked about it. He said to make sure, you know, to let y'all know about it. And if there's any issues or any problems that I can answer, be sure to let me know with it. The second one is it's another local act allowing the sheriff to use a credit card. Again, a lot of sheriff's offices throughout the state have adopted this, a local act. The way you know that the state of Alabama won't let you use a credit card according to the auditors. The auditor said you have to have a local act to be able to do that. So this would establish the ability, and it would be for purchasing associated with discretionary spending as well, pistol permit money. And if you'll, this one's kind of a long, drawn out bill, but if you look on the very back page, it's subsection F. Talks about the sole purpose of this section is to provide the sheriff a more efficient method of making payment for authorized purchases of tangible property. It goes on, and at the very end it says, Nothing in this section shall allow the sheriff to expend funds in excess of those otherwise validly appropriated by law, nor shall anything in this section authorize the sheriff of Lauderdale County to establish a debt of the Lauderdale County Commission.
Where's that at?
Subsection F.
Okay. Well, 71. Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you.
And again, it's kind of self-explanatory how that would work in there. It would be linked to discretionary spending, pistol permit spending, stuff like that. It would allow for, this day and age, it's purchases are a lot easier to be able to make something with a card or something like that. Be audited account, state auditor would audit it and everything. So, again, several sheriffs have local acts that establish that. Would help with training stuff, booking rooms, stuff like that as well. That's one of the main things is being able to book rooms for training, out-of-town training, stuff like that.
How has this been handled, Sheriff? You spend the money and you get reimbursed or something?
Yeah, and we've made good strides towards trying to fix that. I think, recently Ms. Bryant let us know that if, right now, you've got to you got to get your personal credit card out, make that purchase, make that room reservation, then you'll get reimbursed. Now, here recently, they've sped up that process to where, Ms. Bryant might can comment on it a little bit more, but it's a speedier process. But there again, you still got people having to put stuff on their personal accounts, go somewhere, go out of town, go to a class or something.
Well, this will definitely speed up the process, and so long as it's, the auditors and everything, you're okay with the things we do. So I certainly don't see a problem with it myself.
Okay. Same thing with this, and if y'all got any, if you're reading over it and got any further questions, just give me a call and I'll try to explain it to you or look into it a little bit further. If you got any concerns with either one of them, let me know. So,
Okay.
but anyway, this has been sent to Representative Pettis. I've sent it over. It's at the step to where it needs to be advertised in the paper before it goes to session, pre-filed bill. So
I just need y'all permission to do it. Everybody has to agree before we can send it on.
Would that put the responsibility of paperwork on your office to be able to present all that to the?
yes, we have minimum accounting requirements right now on our office that the auditor does, but yes, it would be, that would be kept in-house with, we've got a lot of internal bookkeeping and auditing that we do right now also. But yes, would be a audited account that we're responsible for, the sheriff's office.
So you are good for me going ahead and running it.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the sheriff.
Mhm.
I don't know how many calls I've had on the gun permit things. Can you explain that to us a little bit? Everything had been so up in the air, and the folks, I tell them, I say, you just need to check with the sheriff on that.
Yeah,
The
so
gun
when the-
permits, does everybody have to have a gun permit?
No, not in the state of Alabama. You do not have to have a gun permit anymore in the state of Alabama to conceal it, to carry it in your vehicle, anything like that. Now, there are some exemptions in the law where you can and can't carry. Like this commission meeting, you cannot carry a gun into it. Even with a permit, you couldn't carry it into it. Some up the courthouse, other things like that. But no, You do not have to have a permit. I would encourage people, if you're going to travel across state lines, to go ahead and get your permit. You know, we only charge $10 for them, probably the cheapest in the state. Would be a good idea if you're traveling out of state, go ahead and get a permit. But as a citizen of this, now, if you're in Tennessee, you can't come to Alabama and open carry or and conceal carry without a permit. It's only for Alabama residents, but you no longer have to have a permit.
Okay. Do the other states comply, I mean, do they, not comply, but do they honor those permits?
They honor, yes, the majority is listed on the back of your permit. It'll tell
Okay.
you all the states that
Okay.
honor it. But now the states are not gonna honor our law that says you don't have to have a permit. So, you know, you can carry down here, you cross the state line with no permit, then you run the risk of, you know, violating their laws. But it's best to get you a permit.
Well, and that's fine, but I've just had several questions. People have called me, and I know they've had things on the internet. The governor has been on there about permits and stuff, and I think it more or less got everybody confused rather than straightening them out. And I was pretty well, of course, I was to get a permit anyway, but I was just curious. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Well, Mr. Parker, I'd just like to say to you, it's been a pleasure.
Well,
You've got one more meeting, right? Or after
one more
this?
work session.
One more work session.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
if you ever need anything from us, you know where to find us.
Okay, well, of course, I was gonna tell all the ones in here, I've already told most of them, but I certainly appreciate the employees of Lauderdale County, including the supervisors, the elected officials, and, you know, it's really been good. It's kind of I don't think you need to call it a bittersweet, but it's, I've had second thoughts, but anyway, the decision was made, and I stand by it. But there again, I appreciate, Lauderdale County is lucky to have the employees they have. And including all departments.
I agree.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things tonight. We'll talk about this more in the work session next time, because this is something, if you guys want to pursue, have to go before a meeting, but I just kind of want to get on your radar, no pun intended. The town of Killen approached me about changing a speed limit on a road it's our road. It's outside their municipality, but it's in their police jurisdiction. It's over there on Central Avenue. I had to look it up. It's over Emerald Beach area. It's a real short, just a little cut-through road. And so they're asking for it to be 25 mile an hour. Apparently they've got an issue with somebody that drives really fast out there, and it's just, the road's like 2 blocks long, and so it goes up, it's got a curve, and so I'll bring you guys more data on that later, but I got a letter from town on that, and so, you know, to change the speed limit, we would have to do that. It's a neighborhood road, it would not be the end of the world, but I just want to get that on your radar now, and I'll get you more information on that next week. But we get a lot of requests to change speed limits, and typically don't. You know, if it's not a safety issue, we don't typically entertain it, you know. But when it comes from a town, especially it came from their police department, and so we do take those a little bit different approach on those. And so I just kind of want to get that on your radar, and we'll talk more about that next week. I'll give you some more details. Just a reminder, tonight on the agenda, there's 2 subdivisions. The one, the Natchez View, I think, in the central area, and then Coal Creek over in the Killen area. And so both those are look good. They're on the agenda. I've had one call on the Natchez subdivision, and it was just a question. No controversy or opposition, just a question. So I always want to let y'all know when I get those. Speaking of subdivisions, the subdivision in Killen, the one kind of next door to Turtle Point, we talked a lot about. My office has a lot of time in reviewing that development. That's a very complex set of plans. We've been back and forth with the engineer, which we're getting close. Those guys are probably 2 weeks from having their final stuff ready, and so I would think there's a good chance maybe that first week in December we could be looking at having that on the agenda for the first meeting in December. I just kind of want to put it in front of you guys. As we're talking about that development, if you know where that development is, the very southern boundary of that it touches the river a little bit, but it's kind of on a slough. But between that property and the river is Lock 6 boat ramp. And just as a refresher, Lock 6 boat ramp, which personal opinion, I think is the best boat ramp in the East End of the county, as far as putting a boat in, it's really a ramp. But it's not on a county maintained road. It's not on a state road. It's not on a city road. It is on a non-maintained road. We learned that when I first hired on, and we actually were getting some complaints. There were some old railroad tracks in that road, and old, and they called and asked somebody to call if we could take them out. It was kind of a rough crossing. And I said, well, that seems like a reasonable request. You know, went out there and looked at it and did a work order, and the guys were getting ready to do it, and they called me and they said, you know, Eric, I don't think we've ever worked on this road. And so, well, hang on. So we checked the books, sure enough, it's not a county maintained road. And so that was before they built all those houses on there. And if you've been on that road in the last several years, that road's got houses on one side of it, lake homes there, nice homes. But when they built those houses, they demolished that road. You know, we can't touch it, it's not ours. I just wanted to kind of mention that to you guys, remind you that road to that boat ramp is no man's land maintenance. You know, we had conversations with TVA back some time ago, and they've dabbled in it a little bit, but it's still, it's very questionable about who's gonna maintain that for the long term. All that being said, we have a very large development that borders that road, and I would think if we wanted to look at doing something for that long term, and us getting into the maintenance of that road, or maybe negotiating with the town of Killen or something like that, I think now would be a really good time to have that conversation. There's a lot of wheels going out there, a lot of things changing before they get this plant locked down into concrete, and it's maybe something that can't be changed. I just wanted to kind of put that on your table. We don't have to decide anything tonight. I just wanted to kind of mention that to you guys to be thinking about it. If it's something that you guys would like to pursue, I mean, I've got some things that we could probably consider, but we need to, we probably need to have that conversation now. I would hate for us to look up in 5 years and say, man, we probably should have done something different. So, and if we decide to do nothing, I respect that too. I just think now's a good time for us to talk about it. So just want to get that on your radar, and I'd be glad in the near future to talk about that if y'all have any questions or any ideas, and we can handle that how you guys want to. And Scott, you want to talk about the bridge stuff?
Yeah, I just got the list here. Anita brought me the list of the facts. One, two, three, four, maybe five that have a pay.
Yeah, so.
And then you've got three besides that that have a pay difference.
Right, so, refresher, the bridge improvement program, you know, we were the applicant on behalf of 31 counties across the state for an initial application for a planning grant, which we got. We paid $40,000 up front to do the application. Okay, we split that 31 ways, which is, I think, $1,290 per county. Okay, I think everybody but about 5 counties have paid that. Because we were successful, we now owe, and I don't have that number in front of me, but
13,000 is what she's got right on here.
it's, yeah, per county, it's gonna be about another additional $1,500, okay? So we're talking about little money here, but we are still finalizing. I've actually got a meeting this week with FHWA on finalizing exactly the contracts and when we pay the consultants and all this stuff, and so we haven't wrote that second check yet, so I haven't pushed those last 5 counties to get that yet because they're fixing to write us another check, and so we're close to getting reimbursed on all that, but it's still, so of that 40,000, we've probably got 30, but we're still, that's still coming in, and all that's got deadlines, so there's big dollars associated with the back end of this, so we're working on it, and if anybody didn't pay us, we'd kick them out in a second, but we're it's coming, it's coming. So I've learned you can't push the feds. Those guys they work at their own pace. And so we're kind of waiting on them, and that's probably to our advantage. It's giving us more time. It's giving Lauderdale more time to get Happy Hollow farther along in design. And so with that being said, Happy Hollow, if you get any calls on that, we do have environmental review going on out there. We had to send letters to some of those property owners and let them know we would be out there, we were doing some stuff. We did have one call from one of the gentlemen on the St. Florine side, just kind of asking what was going on. And so I have been letting AECom handle all those conversations right now. I felt like that was the best thing to do, is to let those guys have those conversations, and if they went good, then we good. And then I can get involved as we need to. But just know, if you hear anything out there, they're doing all their preliminary stuff to environmental and vet our location. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Eric, would you mind addressing the commission about what we talked about, especially with Mr. Holmes here, about fatalities on the road? Are you prepared to talk about that?
Yeah. You know, from a road department standpoint, you know, we all get calls on potholes. We get the calls about the limbs hitting the school bus. We get my road needs a new stripe. They need to bush hog it, shoulders, whatever. That stuff's important. It's important. But nothing is more important than when there's an accident, and especially a fatality, right? It's the trump card. It's the bird in road, right? It's the big one. So on top of that, repetitive. Anytime we have something that's repetitive in a location. Danny, I think about that spot me and you dealt with years ago up there off 25.
Yeah.
People kept running off in that guy's yard, breaking into that wood fence. It didn't make no sense. We couldn't figure it out. And there was nothing going on. But when we found out something was, the same thing kept happening over and over and over, we knew it was a problem. It was bigger than just, well, you know, that old boy was driving too fast or whatever. And so, from a fatality standpoint, anytime there's a fatality, man, we spotlight. You know, we really look at it to make sure, you know, and 120 miles an hour drunk driver, that's likely. There's not much we can do. But so me and Mr. Holmes, we've talked a lot recently. We haven't talked about this specifically, so it's probably, but something that he and I are going to do a little bit better job in the future is making sure that we understand, kind of from a notification standpoint, when we get those serious injury wrecks, those repetitive wrecks. We're actually talking about some internal software where we might even be able to track some of that on our side. And so where we can kind of map it and look back. Now, ALDOT sends us a map every 5 years, it's got it on it, but it's too late. You know, 5 years later, you got 3 fatalities on a curve, it's too late, right? So we're trying to figure out, and that's, I'll explain all this later. It come up because Commissioner Hackworth and I were recently made aware of a little situation that I had no idea. Well, you know what, I could take every one of you out there and say, y'all see anything wrong with this? And you drive through and go, oh, it's beautiful. This guy's yard's nice, it drives good, road looks good, road's pretty freshly paved in the last couple of years. But there's been repetitive accidents there and a couple of fatalities. And so we did all that work today. So we found that out last week, we fixed it today. Like that's how important it is to us. Like we want to make sure we do it. But it starts with, we've got to do something that historically we've never done, and that's communicating better with the emergency response people to know that, so we can know kind of what's going on a serious level. I don't need to know about every fender bender, but like serious tragedy, accidents, it would help us a lot. So, is that?
Tell you folks, thanks for hopping on that today. That's great.
Thank you.
All good. Tom?
Just a couple of things. First of all, I'm gonna be out of the office next week for a couple of days. Me and 2 other guys, or 3 others, got to go to recertification training in Gunner. We'll be gone half a day Wednesday, and we'll be back some Friday morning. Only other thing, we had the President's Cup this weekend. We had over 90 people there, probably 95 actually there, had 89 players. We had 2 touring professionals down there that actually came, one from outside of Memphis and the other one from Huntsville. And Mr. Hackworth was there, and he heard nothing but rave reviews about the courses. One of the guys, the professional that won, he told me, he said he'd never played a tougher course than what we had down there this time. So they were all happy. We had, had two or three women players this time for the first time. Had a 12-year-old hung in there with the best of them. So, had 6 that actually camped Friday night down there and stayed till Sunday in the tent, just to camp and be part of it. So it was well represented, a good thing. So, and we got some stuff working at trying to do a little more next year to get in more people encompassed. Only other thing is, we had a group that come last weekend. They're called part of the Gamblers 500, and they are an off-road club. It's a nationwide thing. This group was the Sons of the Smokies chapter, and they had called me back in the year, and they wanted to come and clean up part of the western part of the county. And so this is what some of the stuff they got: 8 tons of garbage, including 150 tires that they picked up. And they spent part of the day on Friday afternoon and all day on Saturday down there. And I gave them bags, some of the Powell's bags. We carried them 6 cases of those. And I put 2 boom trucks down there with drivers, and they loaded up 3 truckloads and a truckload of tires. So, and you can see it was from everything. The last picture especially kind of dictates what one of the things they pulled out. So you had to know it was there. The toilet. All this from off the sides of the roads, or down in ditches, or just alleyway. Places they just went and pulled all that up, that people had just thrown it away. And actually, they caught one young man pulled up the truck while they was cleaning up one area. One of the people that was there is a teacher from up Tennessee, and he went and proceeded to talk to this young man because his truck was full of garbage, and he was fixing to dump it right there. So, but this was no expense to us. They did it themselves. When we come back later on, they were, very well received. Waterloo Fire Department even brought them all the fish they had left over from the fish fry on Friday night down there. Some of them actually went to Rattlesnake Saloon, so they made a weekend of it. We had them from Wichita, Kansas, Abilene, Texas, West Virginia, Columbus, Ohio, from Georgia, Knoxville. Had one from Knoxville here on the Alabama-Tennessee game. They sat in the parking lot and listened to the game. So they come and do this in just different areas. She told me where they were headed this next time, but it's something they go out and they'll see these areas while they're out off-roading, and they'll pinpoint them on a map. And then they all get together and they'll come back, put a weekend together and go do it. Had one from West Virginia. I think that might have been as far north than Columbus, Ohio. So, and it was all ages.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure that all of that didn't come from Brush Creek Park.
No, none of it came from the park.
We got guys down there.
It all did come from the park, because that's where they dumped it, and we picked it up and moved it.
But it did, we got guys down there to do a great job.
Yeah, but no,
I just want to make sure that that was clarified.
But this was all out, and most of it was off of dirt roads and ravines, and where they would crawl down with ropes, rappel down there and pick them up and get it and drag it back up. So, when they called me, I asked him, I said, what do you want to charge? He said, just let us camp there. I said, well, go ahead,
Yeah.
And so they were tickled to get the bags, and they used them. And I offered to give them gloves too if they wanted them. And they said they had their own gloves and stuff. So anyway, it's been a couple of long weekends down there, the last 2 weekends, but they've been productive. So.
I can testify, there were a lot of people down there picking up garbage, trash.
Yeah, it was everywhere. But
Yeah,
I was glad this Waterloo came down there and gave them the food. That was pretty neat. They were
good.
The guy emailed me. He said, I couldn't believe that we'd never had that before. Somebody that actually come feed us. So, that's all I got. So
I sent you guys an email with what we owe to the webpage. Did everybody go?
Oh,
Did you
yeah,
click on that
I
and see that?
haven't looked at today.
No, It wasn't
It
today,
was,
I saw it last
that
week.
video we put.
Oh,
there.
that video,
Yeah.
oh boy, wasn't that great?
Wasn't
Yeah,
that good?
that
Y'all watched
was,
that all the way through?
Yeah.
yeah,
And
And
you
that
know, that
fellow-
was one of our
That was
employees.
when I did that.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Where's he
yeah.
work?
He
Where's
works
his
at
landfill?
Plaza.
He drives the truck.
He did a marvelous
He
job.
did a
Boy,
great
I
job.
mean, he's
He
a pro
did.
at that.
He is.
Anybody that ain't got to see that need to, they can pull that out, that's really
It
good.
is
So,
I
out of
told
this
Tom we
world.
need to get with tourism and see if they wanna pick that up. You know,
Pretty good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, Tom, express to all your folks, I know Dwayne was down there quite a bit, and the others, they did an outstanding job
Oh.
getting the park ready.
we had church service down there Sunday night too.
Yeah.
Murphy's Chapel was down there having church service.
Yeah.
I thought Roger would be there, but
Kinda like the song, Tom, preaching, praying, and singing.
that's right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Tom.
Another thing that had to do with the park, I got a bill from B Electric for the, for $25,000 about, for some of that rough cut-ins for the improvement side at Brush Creek Park. Is that,
That's part of what they're doing
are they halfway finished?
Probably, they've got a lot done down there.
They've sent a
I know
bill on half.
that all the underground stuff, they've done all the boring, that's been done, that's, might be what that's for.
This called for rough ends for site improvements at the
Yeah.
park.
They're probably
It's-
half.
The total bill is 42,900, that's part of the
The bid.
the
Yeah.
bid.
Yeah, they're at least halfway through, they've hit a water line they didn't know was there, and they called me and they repaired it, and that was part of the bid, they would repair everything that tore up, but they, called today, was asking me, do you happen to know who designed this? And I told them Richard Evans, so they were gonna call him. Cause he said, there's a couple lines here that we don't know where they go, we just can't find them, so.
They were there today.
I would say they're at least halfway through.
They were down there today.
They were there today.
Yeah.
Okay. We're finally getting it going.
Yeah. Finally.
I'm getting toward it. I've got to call Bo Cooper, find out, just exactly when we're supposed to get that money. But, we got it going. Okay, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 3 quick things tonight. On the agenda tonight, there should be an MOU between the city, the county, and 911, and that's for the reimbursement for dispatch services for the ambulance. The city passed that resolution last week, so it should be before the commission tonight, and then it'll go before the 911 board. The way that is $5,000 a month fee, split equally, $2,500 from the county, $2,500 from the city, and it'll be billed separately to each entity. Any questions about that one? All right, the other 2 things, if you hear anything from the volunteers about HEAR radios, which that's the radio frequency that communicates between ground and air ambulance and between ground and Nancy Hospital, there had been some issues or some concerns that were raised about some of the agencies not having access to that frequency. That's been fixed. All of the departments should have access to that now. We provided them with additional handheld radios, so that problem, if you hear about it, should be fixed. So that'll be taken care of. The last thing, as Mr. Hill alluded to, he and I have been having a number of conversations preparing for different types of events that may happen throughout Lauderdale County. And probably the most serious event that happens on the most regular basis is weather. Be it tornadic or straight line winds or whatnot. And so in talking with Eric and looking back over the history of events that have happened, the tornadoes that hit Blackberry and Kendall Gardens and the Killen area in April 2 years ago probably got us as a county about to the limit of what we could handle locally. Between what Tom and his folks had done and the commission had made the decision to buy the trucks for the debris removal, that helped significantly. Eric had his staff working nonstop, but we were kind of at that point to where we may not be able to handle anything that's bigger than that. So Eric, through his relationship with ACCA and his positions on state boards, brought us kind of to this point to where we now have a debris removal contract statewide. And so the state is divided into particular regions. Each of those regions under the contract has contractors that are assigned to those regions, so that if there is a certain set of criteria, which I'll kind of briefly touch on, then this county commission can activate that for the entire county. So what that does at that point is allows for a third-party contractor to come in and do that debris removal. And it's not just limbs and trees, it can be limbs and trees, it can be household garbage, it can be electronics, it can be those large appliances, any of those items. So you kind of think of a hurricane going through the coast, and people pile their debris within the right-of-way, and then crews come through and capture that from the right-of-way, not from private property. That's what this contract covers. So I bring it up for two reasons. One, I've got part of it I'd like for you to think about, and we'll talk about it at a future work session. And then second, just to kind of have some visibility on what it takes to activate that contract and kind of what it looks like from a county perspective. So in order to activate that contract, there'll have to be a special called meeting of this commission, and the commission will have to vote to activate that contract. Like anything that deals with reimbursement, the county then has to pay for those expenses up front and then seek reimbursement. The only time that we would activate that contract in its current form would be if there was a FEMA declared disaster. So Eric would work with our office would work with the commission and with state EMA to get reimbursement back to the county. I say that because one of the examples that was used from South Alabama was $1.9 million plus or minus that had to be spent on the front end. So as you're making policy decisions, just kind of think through that, because right now as a county, we don't have a quote set aside disaster relief account. And so that may be something the commission wants to consider or think about in the future. And the second part of that is that if we activate this agreement, we have the ability through MOU with other municipalities to have them pre-sign a memorandum of understanding with the county commission that says that if an event comes through their community, that they don't have the capacity to be able to clean it up, that we will come into their community as part of this contract, we being the county, and clean the debris up, and then would work for reimbursement, but the reimbursement would obviously come back to the commission. So if you think of the small communities within Lauderdale County, the Waterloos, the Rogersvilles, the Andersons, the Lexingtons, who probably don't have the capacity if a tornado hits their town to clean it up, then we can, through MOU, have that pre-established. And so I'd like for the commission to consider that. I think it would be in the county's best interest to do that. Obviously, from my office's perspective, it's going to be a lot more streamlined if I'm only having to seek reimbursement on one entity than have 8 different entities that are trying to, it's just a mess, right? And I think we'd be more efficient doing it this way than if we said, no, I'm sorry, Killen, but y'all got to go do your own thing. And if it's an unincorporated area, it just makes better sense to me that if the contract exists for us to all be on the same page. Mr. Smith has read over the MOU. We're all on the same page if the commission chooses to go down that road, and I would encourage the commission to consider that. So I'll have that MOU to you by the next work session to give you some time. Now, as part of that, the only other issue that we need to, as a group, come to a consensus on is whether or not we will allow, let me back up. I'm making an assumption that if a tornado comes through our county that we're going to need help, and that this commission is likely going to allow us to take advantage of that state contract. Under that state contract, the commission also has to decide whether or not we are going to allow any of that debris to be burnt. So if you look back to Haleyville, Hackleburg, they allowed it to be burnt there. It's obviously a lot more frugal, if you will, as far as pricing goes, because you're not having to chip it up and do all of that kind of stuff. And we can get debris, moved around and whatnot. But we have to make a decision as a county as to whether or not we're going to allow burning to happen of that debris post-incident. Why it's important before an incident hits is so that Eric and I can start to pre-designate certain areas within the county or start building those relationships to have those areas established. Think of it in these terms. I know that Mr. Smith has a chipper out at the landfill, but if the majority of our debris is from Highway 101 east, that's a long haul and an expensive haul to bring all of that debris back into the area and get it to Tom to do there. So it might be more economical for us to use the property that we already own in Elgin, or to look at some of the open areas or undeveloped areas outside of those municipalities to lease or rent those areas and use those for debris removal, storage, and then destruction. Does that make sense? Okay. It really is, it's a very solid contract there. It's a very stringent contract. It has a number of requirements for both the contractor, a monitoring, separate monitoring service that comes with that we would activate, that would make sure that their tonnages are right, that their distances are right, that everything's handled in accordance with what's going to be required for reimbursement. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of it. Any questions about that right now?
Is there a cap per se, or a limit of the money that you spend?
No, the only cap is on how much the monitoring service can make. So the third-party group that comes in that is responsible for overseeing the contractor, their amount of money is capped at 30,000? 20%, at 20% of the total costs. So it might be that, ABC Storm, it only has $800,000 worth of debris, but now, you go back to their 27th event in 2011, and you've got 4 tornadoes that come through in different areas, and that may be a $4 million expense. So every storm is obviously different, and there's no proverbial cap. It's just based on the amount of tons of debris that you're having to remove.
Well, the only reason I ask that, and hopefully we never get another storm. But if we did, and it just kind of took out, maybe not everything, but me personally, I wouldn't want the county to get hung with a big bill. Because all this is on a reimbursement thing, right?
Right. And that's a lot of why I would encourage, if we activated the contract, to also activate the monitoring service side of it, so that there's no question that, hey, this is Brad's first time to deal with one this big. And so rather than me being the one that misses something, having another set of professional eyes who this is what they do, helping to maintain that paperwork, I think is going to be important to secure and safeguard the county to be able to get reimbursed.
I'm certainly, I think it's good. I think it'll be a good thing, I just didn't want to, and probably know what happened, but,
Well, no, but it's the federal government, and I mean, there's still money from the storm 2 years ago that we haven't been reimbursed on, that we're still waiting on money for. And that's why I say, I think part of our responsibility in managing the community and managing the government of the community is not only, Ms. Bryant has done a phenomenal job of safeguarding our finances up to this point. And as we continue to move forward, and as we continue to progress and develop as a county, at some point in time, I think it's going to be critical for every department to, let's look at what we're doing. Let's look at what that rainy day fund looks like, or that disaster recovery fund looks like. Do we need it? Does it need to be kept separate? How do we protect a set amount of resources from whoever the next sitting commission becomes? Those type of things, I think, are policy decisions that I would encourage us all, to consider. Because particularly where we're at, and as things shift, we've seen an uptick, and I think that storm damage is our most likely. The winter stuff is a hassle, it's a nuisance, but it doesn't cause the quote long-term damage, let me rephrase, it creates more long-term damage to a road system, but the immediate damage that's going to need to be dealt with before it turns into a life and safety issue in a storm, it does like that. All right, I'll provide that information to you before the next work session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rod, do you? All right.
All right, the end of last week, as anticipated, the attorney for this Florence Opportunity Fund, which is basically Mr. Eugene Sack and the organization they're putting together to try to bring in a reverb by Hard Rock down at 400 South Court, sent a more formalized request letter for tax abatement. they wish to do it by using Amendment 772 for economic development in a similar fashion that they did with the city of Florence. And if you'll recall, about a month ago, I gave y'all what they sent me, which was the economic development study and the actual agreement they entered into with Florence. Of course, they're gonna need to be educated that sales tax and the county government go to education, et cetera, and some other things. And they got their wires crossed because they sent me an email at 1:30 saying, setting up a telephone conference with me without asking me ahead of time. Well, they said, I'm not available, I gotta go eat phase food. So, anyway, the bottom line being, they probably need to come talk to y'all face to face and then allow themselves to be open for your questions. In the meantime, I will meet with them, go ahead and tell them one or two obvious points like the sales tax issue, and then let them come make their own pitch to the commission. If that's okay with you, I'll let them know that they can come either the 4th or the later work session in November and to set that up with Ms. Bryant. Basically, it'll be their lawyer, Mr. Sack, I imagine, and we'll tell you face to face what they want to do, how they want to do it, tell you what they did with Florence, and then specifically tell you what they would like for you to consider, and then take questions from you. Now, according to this, they copied all of y'all with that letter. So y'all should have got that. So I'll communicate that to Mr. Shipper. And,
All their property in the city limits.
yes,
That they're
this
talking
old hotel down here, South Fourth Street. Of course, all the infrastructure side agreements with the city has nothing to do with the county. The only thing they want out of the county is a classic tax abatement, but done under 772, that economic development amendment. And so that's one thing they need to talk to y'all about, the structure of it. I did, as Brad said, I've gotten that memorandum of understanding on that contract. It's quite extensive. I've reviewed it, talked to Brad about it, remain open for him to seek further counsel. I have and signed the change order, which is sent tonight along with the chairman, on the turbine room extension. I did a very extensive amount of due diligence on it, because anytime you get into that kind of percentages, the law talks about extraordinary circumstances, and you have to be very, very detailed on why you're suggesting this road, and I think the reasons were compelling. And the only thing I asked of the Boca people is when it comes, I want to see this. This is a once in a
I do
lifetime.
too.
We all want to see that.
And the thing that really, really impressed me just as a citizen is that when this thing is built, it's gonna be a one-of-a-kind training opportunity in the entire country. That opened, that really blew me back. So I'm excited about it personally. I tried to meet with, I did meet with Kelly Putz of the Farmers Market and her compadre and answered their questions the last time we were here, and had a pleasant conversation. I tried to give them a little idea of precedent, and then I explained liability issues to them. They seemed to understand that. The precedent being old, I showed them, and they wanted a copy of the 1983 agreement between Florence and the county that established an agribusiness board, which is basically the genesis of what is now the Farmers Market Board, and showed them in there that any changes they make to policy, of course, have to be sent to the city and the county who approve it. That was the reason I let them see that, but to show them that there was reason behind what I was telling them. Well, Ms. Putz apparently took that and ran with it, and now she's asked me a bunch of questions about things that don't exist, like, financial accounting, as if the farmer's market had its own department within the county and didn't operate under the general fund, and I'm gonna educate her to the best of my ability on these things. But she was asking questions about their responsibilities, even extending to the extension office in the Coliseum, and then this sentence here kind of blew me away. Do our duties include any part or all of the new agribusiness center under construction? So I guess officially y'all don't want me to bring a farmer's market board into the ag center, but after a clear review of all, maybe you do, no, a clear review of all existing documentation Friday, which I've looked at before, I'm gonna look at it again. I'm going to very politely answer all of her questions and make myself available to explain further if she requires. Just FYI, in case you run across them somewhere. But, basically they just don't know. And so we're just gonna have a, a tutorial about it, because obviously things changed over the years. The Coliseum is not operated the way it once was, Extension Center's different. The farmer's market is, compared to the older documentation, a brand-new situation. I think I've got to get them to understand that the board's role, its raison d'etre, is to establish policy and oversee the operation through its manager of the rental of the facility by local growers, et cetera, and nothing else. That's basically all I have for today, and I understand that the work session is Monday? Next work session, okay. And I'll be here for that too. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anything for Chris?
The other process is after that, change order resolution is passed, and everything is sent to Montgomery for the head fellow to look at it.
Okay. Billy, you?
Billy, don't you wanna talk about the bill you sent up to the office?
We need to, because that's,
Well, the commission has to agree before I can send it to the
Okay.
paper.
all right, we'll talk about it. Thank you. What it is on business personal property. If you don't understand what that is inside your business, like your countertops, your computers and all that, it gets a tax. That's business personal property in there. One of the things that we get, say, like Lowe's, Walmart, all those, they get 30 pages of those. All right, so when that comes in, each line has to be checked off. So if they didn't send that in the same way they did last year, that has to be done one line at a time in our office. Eats up a lot of time. This is not unique to Lauderdale County, but anything that's over, get it?
We one short.
Oh, okay. I counted 5.
Okay.
All right, I actually copied this bill from other counties, so these are ones that's already been passed. But what they have to do, if it's over $10,000 so in other words, it's not gonna make any of the smaller businesses, they have to enter it electronically. So it comes directly into the computers, and it'll cut down on the time and the errors that's happening in that department. I actually sat in on one of these just to kind of see what it's like. You can talk about it till you sit in there. So one company, I don't know if they were upset about their taxes or what, they changed almost 20,000 items, $1 each. So each one of them had to be re-entered in one at a time. And that was very, very aggravating. It was very time consuming, and I sat there through about 5 pages of it, and I thought, you're right, but that was one of the things that kind of, is there something we can do? So that when I was at one of the state conventions, I started asking other counties, what do you do about stuff like this, especially on these big companies? Little guys, it's not a problem, but it was these big ones, the ones that's over $10,000. So that's what'll cause them to, and they're asking for it to where they can send it electronically, instead of having to mail it to us or stuff like that. So that was, that's what this is about. Like I said, I copied it from other counties. So that's just, it's pretty kind of plain. And I've sent this to Philip about 3 months ago, Reverend Pettis, and he's already got it all drawn up, sent it back to me. Said just need to get to Brenda, and get it in the paper and stuff. Is there any questions on anything about that?
If you wouldn't mind, just give me kind of the gist of what the bill is, what you're wanting the bill to do for you.
Okay, if the business, the business personal property bid, is over $10,000, they have to send it in electronically instead of paper. And that's what a lot of other counties, like I said, that when they send them in and they're not in the same order, all that, see, they can just delete last year's and put them in there as it is this year. So not having to do each one every time.
So they get on the revenue web page to send it in electronically through the web page.
Yeah, it'll come in, everything will come in electronic. Cuts down on errors, that's the other thing is, but like I said, it's only the larger companies, they gotta be over $10,000 on that stuff. You take like a computer, say it starts out at $500 and depreciates down, that actually will come on down with it also. And like I said, it's not taxing the little guy, that was the thing, I didn't wanna have to, A smaller company might not have this type of stuff. It's already set up into our computer system. When we upgrade all this, it's already there, so it's not gonna be any expense to us at all. It's just gonna come into a different direction. So there's no expense to us, not a penny.
Oh, I have a question. When you say personal property for any business engaged in leasing of personal property, what exactly, it says revenue commissioner for any business engaged in the leasing of personal property for any business with personal property assets of $10,000 or more. What would be a company that would have that?
Well, actually, we run into this, you own ABC Leasing Company, and you don't have it. So you go get it from Chris. Instead of sending me to Chris, so that leased from that. That was kind of a really odd thing, because your accountant actually sent it to us like you owned it. So that's for this leasing, and UNA has several things that they lease. You know, like some of the food stuff, the drink machine, some of that's leased. So it's actually coming from that company, not UNA. So we have to go into, and those companies know they have to send all this stuff in. In other words, like if we had a drink machine over here that we leased. Yeah.
So it's just up to the commission if they, that's why I told them, y'all would have to, if y'all have an issue with going forward with it or not.
I like it.
I think it's a good idea. The counties that I talked to did. St. Clair County is one of them. It's about our size. Coleman, I think, has done it also. I always try to check counties that's our size. Huntsville and Birmingham and all that, they're a little too big. I can't go by them. Any other questions? Thank you for your time, guys.
I guess he didn't come.
Okay, I guess that gets the department head. Thank y'all. Yep. I'm sure we'll see floors in 9 days. We got that. It's crazy. You have to take some kids, Rich, on the chair.
No, most of these companies, they have lease they call it inventory.
Yeah.
They're on inventory.
You know, like our little flower shop. Do the inventory real quick. We'll have her, well, Brenda's in.
I'll do it.
Oh, okay.
We used to-
I don't know how to. Okay.
Yeah,
I figured that's what it was.
it's still going.
There it is.
Yeah, I was gonna talk to you about it, but I haven't actually seen the letter, so.
Okay.
I know what your issue is.
I haven't read it yet, so I can get to it.
So you didn't get anything, I didn't get, nobody else got anything but you?
I guess I didn't bring the letter. I
You get a
figured
letter from anybody?
it said a carbon copy to, or CC to all the other commissioners.
Who's this a letter from?
Just one letter, that's all you got. Can we?
You talking about Hard Rock?
No. Can we,
Oh, I got it mailed.
can we go back there?
I got both of those.
Okay, well, did you
Oh,
bring?
let's
Did
talk,
you get it,
let's
Brad?
talk about
I don't know.
stuff we
I
can
don't
talk
think so.
about out
Okay.
here.
Okay, all right, I don't have it, just a couple of things, everybody coming back? I mean, everybody left, the commissioners.
Well, when they get back,
Rogers and the rest are just coming back.
we'll
Okay.
talk about everything with this personnel issue.
Okay, that's the only thing I thought they probably, and they're still here, we can actually talk to them that person. I haven't seen what they brought, I know what their issue is, but I haven't seen anything on that.
She went in, I wish I'd have brought that. I thought everybody had it.
I got the letter.
But she,
Mr. Patterson, if he has,
If you
that's
need
fine.
to, if you need to
I don't
make a
have,
copy.
this is what we gotta talk about in the other stuff, won't be just a minute, it's just a couple of things.
Let me find it.
The first thing was the travel expenses, did you guys, I wrote a policy
There's
for
the
travel
letter.
expenses. Did y'all wanna set up a policy, or did you wanna, what did y'all wanna do?
right here is the one I got.
Okay, let's wait until we get
You can
finished.
give her a Gmail. This is, oh, she might be, both of them, basically kind of the same idea.
Well, I've just got one here.
Okay,
You wanna see it?
not right this minute, if y'all wanna go ahead. and
Let's talk about that right now.
The
Since it's
elected
kind of
official, I wrote a policy for elected official travel guide for personal vehicle. If y'all would want a copy of it, I can show you what it says, or I can, I said I wrote a copy. I made some copies, but I might have to go into the other office. Let me see what else I got on here, I was gonna talk to you about.
Joe, you remember that? Thank you so much.
Okay, the animal control is gonna be on the MOU's gonna be on there tonight. We had to rewrite some things, so I went ahead and added it. The mayor came by and asked us, Chris said, y'all had already allocated it and everything. So that's gonna be on there tonight. I just wanted to remind everybody about the work session. Of course, the open enrollment starts November the 1st. Does anybody need one of these? Is anybody gonna be doing anything to their insurance or anything, you know? There are some changes, if you wanna make them, you need to make them this
Don't change, just
month.
not do anything.
Okay. There's
Is that
not,
right?
that's true, there's not. And then, the November, we'll have a work session November the 4th, and then our regular meeting won't be till the 13th, that Wednesday at lunchtime.
Will we have a work session that day too?
That's just up to y'all. I assumed we would, but we have to have a meeting first so we can set our meeting times and everything. I don't,
Y'all, is the work session on the 4th necessary?
I was gonna look and see how this calendar looks. So,
well, we haven't put it in the meeting to cancel it,
if we'll have one on the 13th,
That Wednesday, the 13th.
Well, we'll have to, because we'll have
That's
to
the
go,
law.
we'll have to go over the meeting.
if we
agenda and
have
all
that one, then we will have had a work session before the 26th or 25th. Vote.
In other words, do we need to do a work session Monday?
Right, I mean, is there anything we need to do?
That's up to y'all.
Well, I mean, I don't know of anything at this
That we can't
point.
solve right now?
Yeah.
I don't.
So I move if we cancel the work session on
On
Monday.
4th. I second that.
Okay. All good with that?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
You just get out of one. You just get out of there. You didn't even say nothing. That's pretty smooth right there now. I hear you.
We'll have to do that at the meeting.
That's Nate Parker.
Okay.
He said, Joe, bring us up.
Yeah, but he write that down for you to say that down there. It's pretty good right there. Played right into that. I was like,
Oh,
The only other thing is just if you wanna do a travel policy or not.
But y'all, I know nobody's got an election, but don't we typically cancel that work session anyway?
Yeah.
I think we have.
It's always, usually somebody.
Usually somebody's got
Not
an
gonna
election.
be here.
We'll just need to make sure we'll have to put it in the meeting, that this afternoon's meeting.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
we can add that.
Somebody can just, at the end of the meeting, just say they recommend that we cancel it, we'll just put it in there.
We don't have to have a resolution on it.
Well, we'll write we won't have a resolution, but we'll have a meeting saying, it'll be recorded in the minutes.
Okay, that we
We'll
you won't
record
have a work session on
that we won't have one on.
Okay.
So that's really all I have.
So we need to go back there and talk about
Let's go
the
to
lady.
Yeah, because that's a personnel issue that doesn't need to be
Okay.
talked about. So is that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay.
So the only new thing, David, we have a work session on the 4th.
That'll be at the meeting. We'll
That'll
talk
be in
about
the
that.
meeting.
That'll
too.
be in the meeting.
But, we got a personnel thing we gotta go back here and do.
You got person who wants to push you, you can't discuss in public?
No, we can't.
No, we can't discuss this.
Okay, all right.
But, we hit that every now and then.
I need to see the boys in the
And that's what, your